thought it'd be good just to talk a little bit, introduce to the people here who are not sort of aware of what's going on in Austin, a little bit about what is, and something called the Austin Blockchain Collective. So let's just jump into it. So Austin Blockchain Collective, what is it? It's got a mission. It's got a mission to establish Austin as a credible global center for blockchain innovation. So we all hear, when we speak of blockchain, we all hear of places like New York and Silicon Valley, and we may be aware of places like London and Crypto Valley in Switzerland and Singapore. I don't think you can really put Austin on the list right now. I think what we're seeing though is that there's an awful lot of action here, and we want to actually get it to a point where people do mention it when they mention these other centres. So that's the mission for the collective. Our approach to doing it is really one of working with all of the companies and projects here and helping them get better known, helping them in terms of what they're doing, getting them involved and engaged with all of the different entities around, whether they be city or state agencies, or whether they be larger organizations or major companies, and helping them sort of work together. So what we like to say is we advocate for, we showcase, and we nurture the Austin blockchain and crypto companies here. So the quick background is that the collective itself is really only 6 months old. It came out of an idea, myself and a co-founder by the name of Dustin Byington. We were in a coffee shop just before Christmas, and we were actually, the conversation went that we've been involved here in the blockchain space, each of us, for 3 or 4 years, and frankly very little was happening for most of those. And the conversation we had just before Christmas was, oh, things are beginning to happen here, so let's see if we can begin to get some companies in a room, even having a cup of coffee or having a beer. We decided to form this association called the Austin Blockchain Collective. We created a one-page website in a Saturday morning, reached out to a few people we knew were here, and began to sort of spread the word that we were doing this. By the time it came to launch, which was at South by Southwest this year, we actually had 40 companies and projects here in Austin that we considered as members. So we were really quite surprised at that level of interest. Certainly a lot of those companies found us. What's been even more surprising though is that in the 6 months since we officially raised our hands, another 80 have come along, and it's growing. There are more than 120 companies listed on our website now. Everyone from major companies like IBM, who have a genuine blockchain presence here in Austin, to companies like Dell, who are frankly been one of the companies who obviously extremely large here in Dell and a global company, but only really now beginning to look at blockchain as something that they might want to offer. So we've begun to engage with them, right down to an awful lot of medium-sized companies and lots of startups. So really beginning to work with a whole range of companies, and certainly expect some more to come along, because we're actually just finding new projects being formed out there. It's a very vibrant time for blockchain in Austin. The basic model that we work to, if you are a company or a project, if you have a presence in Austin in the blockchain or crypto space, doesn't have to be technical. It could be a marketing person, or it could be a business person, technical person, not an advisor, but it has to be someone essentially full-time. If that company or project has got someone in Austin, you can be a member. And basic membership is free. I'm sure it probably always will be. We're funded by what we call a patron supporter model. a little bit like public TV, beginning to bring some of those companies on, if you like, early true believers who are genuinely helping us in our day-to-day operations. Before I started the collective, I was a consulting guy in the space. I don't really do much of that now because I'm spending all my time on the collective, and so having some patrons and supporters helps keep my wife and dog very happy. We're still actually running as a unit within my consulting company from a corporate point of view, but we'll form a non-profit, probably a 501c6 next year. So I said we have some patrons and supporters, so quickly shout out to some of those. Wanchain is a company who's been a patron of ours since the very beginning, and are continuing to help us and support us. Chinese company with a big presence here in Austin. Essentially, their non-US office is here in Austin. NEM is an interesting platform out of the Far East who have set up their North American hub here in Austin and bringing people in. And 212 is a company which is only a week old. That's actually Dustin Byington's new company. He was the president of Wanchain, left there to form 212, and was running in stealth mode for a couple of months before I convinced him that he really needed his logo on one of my slides and not his mugshot. So they're a company in the security token space. So very interesting what they are doing, and they'll be talking a bit more about what they're doing at our next meetup in about a week's time. Some supporters as well, also providing both financial and in-kind support. Thanks, 10 Capital is one of our supporters. Pouch Points is here in the form of Joshua, who's also an associate director of the collective. Karen Kilroy's company, Kilroy Blockchain. Vault Wallet, who you'll see out there with their exhibits, just joined us as a supporter. Thank you very much. So we're really sort of going out now after that long tail and bringing in some of those smaller companies to work with us. Cognitive Scale is one who are they're an AI company who are beginning to figure out where blockchain plays for them. And Capital Factory as well, who I'm sure you all know of, and we are very thankful to have them help us and host us for quite a number of our events. So certainly looking for more patrons and more sponsors if you feel like conducting an ICO for us or something. So what the kind of things that we do, we've got sort of, if you like, an online presence with a blog, which is an active blog. We put up a community news every week on it. We've got a Twitter feed, which we use very actively. There's a hashtag you use, #AustinBlockchain. If you tweet using that hashtag, you'll get it retweeted and liked. We've got a LinkedIn group. We've got a Slack, which we use mainly for our the representatives of companies here and for our working groups. A bit more about working groups on the next slide. We hold our own meetups every month on the third Monday of every month at Capital Factory. Pretty wide sort of topics that we cover there. There are probably about 10 active other meetups going on in Austin. Ethereum, a Hyperledger one, a couple of ICO ones. So as well as running our own meetup, we're all very, very happy to promote and showcase those other meetups as well, and and those people from those meetups are always welcome to come along to our meetup and do shout outs about what they're doing, and we also promote them via Twitter and our weekly news. We also, as well as our monthly meetups, we hold probably about 3 larger town hall meetings every year. We did our debut one back in, I think it was June or July, in a large room at Capital Factory there, Voltron room, and we've got another one coming up at the end of this month. For the kickoff, we actually had 20 local companies present 5 minutes each, and I was kind of amazed that it actually worked organisationally. But the reason for doing that was because there was an awful lot of companies in town that just didn't know one another, didn't know one another existed. So we used that as a way to actually just get them to tell the other companies they existed. That worked pretty well. We'll probably run that format again in one of these town halls next year. But for our next town hall, I think we're going to concentrate on a couple of subjects. Supply chain is definitely going to be one of them, because we're seeing quite a lot of things happening here in Austin related to supply chain. So I'm literally just getting the agenda for that together. Going to have a few new companies present at that as well. So it's a mixture of, if you like, online and offline activities that we're doing, really with which sort of goes towards our mission of showcasing what's going on here in Austin. In terms of nurturing and advocating, we formed some working groups, just getting going with them. One of the working groups which has really just definitely got legs is a working group in the healthcare space, which we actually term our Dell Medical School healthcare working group out of recognition that we have Dell Medical School involved, and they genuinely want to be a player in the Texas scene related to healthcare innovation. So we formed a working group. Joshua here is running that. He's actually videoing me now, I think. Thank you. So Joshua is running that group. So we've got Dell Medical School involved with it as well. I think we've got a slide coming up with a couple of things we're doing there. Going to form some more working groups. I think at our next town hall we'll kick off the supply chain working group, looking at interoperability as a working group, because there are actually 7 or 8 different platforms out there with people here in town. So that's kind of interesting. Probably going to look at doing a AI and blockchain working group, also because there are some AI companies out there here in Austin who are all actively interested in blockchain. So what is interesting about these working groups and the engagement we're getting with industry partners is people are looking at the collective as kind of as the hub for what's going on in Austin. We had 2 or 3 large companies from elsewhere, from New York City, banging on our door saying, we're interested in what's happening in Austin. How do we find out? And so they're coming to us, and we're kind of acting as their guide, if you like, to what's going on here. That includes in the healthcare space. So I say we've got a working group with Dell Medical School. The kind of things that this working group is probably only about 3 or 4 months old, but we've already done a few useful things. One of which is Dell Medical they're involved in an incubator program called the Texas Health Catalyst program, and we actually got them to reopen that, and they're inducting blockchain companies into that. So that's very interesting, because while Dell Medical School are eager to learn about blockchain companies are very eager to know the landscape for healthcare here in the city, in the state. And Dell Medical School can really bring some resources and some assets to bear on that, not least huge data sets of population health. We've actually helped Dell Medical School in helping to educate them around regulation like HIPAA and how blockchain impacts that. And we've actually very recently begun to help them become engaged with other organizations. There's one which is being formed by the IEEE right now called Healthcare Global. I think it's going to be announced in a couple of months, but already we've got Dell Medical School talking with the people setting that up. So again, acting as kind of a glue between what's happening in Austin and the wider world. And I think that's one of the ways which will help get Austin on that global map. Also doing some work with University of Texas. They have formed their own blockchain initiative. It really got going as a result of a grant they received from Ripple. I think they got about $2 million to kind of formulate a plan for what UT was going to do in blockchain. We're really helping to sort of showcase what they're doing. We've got an event coming up with them in a couple of weeks' time where they'll showcase some of the research they've undertaken already, some of the things they're going to begin to do, and some of the different organisations within the UT, because they've got really they've got the undergraduate teaching function. They've got the business school that we're heavily involved in, and they've got a couple of different blockchain student bodies. So really sort of helping them getting those organised. They're looking really to bring blockchain into their curriculum. They're already doing that a little bit in their postgrad school, doing that a little bit with things like the supply chain management centre, but they're really looking to introduce blockchain into the undergraduate courses as well. So hoping to work with them on that and helping, and they also want to engage with local blockchain companies from the point of view of learning from them, perhaps becoming research partners with them, and actually even having internship programs with them. So very active in that area. So I think this is just about the final little slide. Some events coming up this month were related to Austin Blockchain Month. Next Monday we've got our regular monthly meetup, which the topic then will be on security token offerings. A couple of days later, there's the regular Ethereum meetup is bringing in Ron Resnick, who is the executive director for the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, which is really the global group of companies who are looking to build standards for the enterprise around the Ethereum blockchain. As it happens, Ron lives in Austin, so it's not far for him to come, but it's great to get him engaged in what we're doing. So on the 23rd, we've got a showcase with UT, really covering what they are doing. Got an event coming up in the daytime of the 29th, which is an IEEE, a local IEEE chapter with a blockchain and healthcare forum. That will be during the day at Dell Medical School. Got a question, Garrett? Yep. The only reason that's not on there because this is we've listed here the events that we as the collective are running. So or heavily involved with. There is the Texas Bitcoin Conference, which is 27th, 28th, which is a huge group of speakers. We're helping to support them, but we're not really part of their program. So, but the day after the Texas Bitcoin Conference, we have our next town hall and showcase. So on 29th, all of these events, I believe, looking at them, they are all free to come to. You've got to register for some of them, but you'll find all of these listed on our website. austinblockchaincollective.com. You'll hear about them on our Twitter feed. I think that's probably it. We're as one extra bit of sizzle, I believe at both the Texas Bitcoin Conference and at our town hall. If you come along, you might end up on TV because there's a TV crew coming along to film for a new series coming out on Bloomberg TV next year. So maybe you can sit there in the audience and wave and get your face known. And with that, I think that's probably from me.